Here we go. This is the story of Diwali. It's a story from India, a story that's thousands of years old. A very long time ago, an old king called Dasratha ruled over a kingdom called Ayodhya. Now, the old king was a good, kind man, and in those days he would have more than one wife. In fact, Dasratha had 3 wives, and they were all queens of Ayodhya. His first wife, Kaushalya, had a son called Rama. His second wife, Kaikeyi, had a son called Bharat. His third wife, Sumitra, had 2 sons, Lakshman and Shatrughan. So the old king had 4 sons, but his favourite and eldest son was called Prince Rama. Now, when Prince Rama was a young man, he visited the king of a nearby country. The king kept an enormous bow in his palace, and he promised that the first man who could string the bow could marry his beautiful daughter, Princess Sita. Now, many men had tried to string the bow. Some of them couldn't even lift it. Prince Rama tried. He lifted the bow so easily and strung it so tightly that it broke to pieces with a noise like a thunderclap. The king kept his promise. Rama married Sita and brought her back to his father's kingdom in Ayodhya. Can we have a bit of kissing then? We do. Chapter 2. One day, Dasratha, the king of Ayodhya, called for his eldest son, Prince Rama. He said, "I'm getting old and weak, and soon I want you to be king. I'm sure you'll rule this kingdom well." Now, one of the queens, Kaikeyi, heard about the king's plan, and she decided to try to stop Rama becoming the king. Kaikeyi remembered that the king owed her 2 special favours. So she went to Dasratha and said, "I've come to ask you for the 2 favours that you promised me so long ago. First of all, I want my son, Prince Bharat, to become king. And secondly, I want you to banish Rama and Sita from this kingdom for 14 years. King Dasratha was really upset, but he couldn't go back on his promise. He called Rama and Sita to him and explained the situation. Without arguing, Rama and Sita left the kingdom and went to live in the forest. Lakshman, Rama's brother, decided to go with them. Chapter 3. Not very long after this, the old king, Dasratha, died. Kaikeyi, the queen, told her son Bharat that he would now become the king, but Bharat refused. He knew that Rama should be the one who was king, so he went to the forest to bring Rama back. Now, when Bharat found Rama, Sita and Lakshman, he explained that their father had died and asked Rama to return to Ayodhya and become king. But Rama refused to return until the 14 years had gone. He would not break the promise he'd made to his father. So Bharat returned to Ayodhya alone, but he took with him Rama's golden sandals. He put the golden sandals on the throne and told the people that Rama was the true king. Bharat said that he would look after the kingdom until Rama returned. Chapter 4. Rama, Sita and Lakshman lived happily in the forest for several years. Now, at the same time, on an island called Lanka, there lived a wicked demon called Ravana. Ravana was a fierce and powerful demon with 10 arms and 10 heads. Ravana set out to capture Sita and to make her his wife. He went to the forest where Rama lived, and by magic, he changed one of his followers into a beautiful deer. When Sita saw the beautiful deer, she asked Rama to catch it, but Rama was very careful. Before he set off to catch the deer, he told his brother Lakshman to stay with Sita and protect her. Then Ravana used a cunning trick. He imitated Rama's voice and shouted out, "Help, Lakshman! Come and save me! Help!" But Lakshman didn't realise this was a trick. Quickly, he drew a magic circle around Sita and told her to stay inside the circle where no harm would come to her. And then he ran off into the forest to help Rama. Chapter 5. Ravana came out of his hiding place. He was disguised as a poor beggarman. He persuaded Sita to step outside of the magic circle. And as soon as she did, he grabbed hold of Sita. And before Rama and Lakshman returned, he carried her away in a flying chariot to his palace on the island of Lanka. Ravana tried his best to make Sita marry him, but she refused. Instead, she remained a prisoner in Ravana's palace for many long years. Now, all this time, Rama and Lakshman searched through the forest in search of Sita. And finally, they were helped in their search by Hanuman, the king of the monkey army. Hanuman could fly, and it was he who found Sita imprisoned on the island of Lanka. Hanuman reported back to Rama and Lakshman, and plans were made to do battle against Ravana and rescue Sita. The monkey army built a huge bridge of rocks to march to the island, but Ravana had a mighty army, and he was prepared for battle. Chapter 6. Then began one of the greatest battles ever seen. Fighting lasted for 10 whole days, and just when it seemed that Ravana would win, Rama borrowed a special bow and arrow from the gods. Rama caught sight of the demon amongst all his soldiers, and he shot the special arrow straight and true. Ravana was killed, and the battle was won. Rama rescued Sita, and together with Lakshman, Hanuman and his army, they returned in triumph. Now at last, the 14 years of exile were complete, and it was time to return to the palace in Ayodhya, where Rama would finally become king. Final chapter 7. The royal city of Ayodhya was polished until it shone. Flags and garlands were put out, and when night came, thousands of small oil lamps were lit throughout the city. There were more stars in the street that night than there were stars in the sky. King Rama took his place on the throne, Sita by his side, and together they ruled the kingdom of Ayodhya wisely and well for many, many years. Every year at around this time, people from India celebrate Diwali, the festival of lights. We do this to remember the time when the evil demon Ravana was killed, and to remember the time when the people of Ayodhya lit their lamps to guide King Rama back home to his palace. Thank you.